They released their schedule for the Orlando restart over the weekend, and headlining the opening night doubleheader on July 30th, the Lakers and the Clippers, the two best teams in the Western Conference. They just played that last Sunday before we shut the whole thing down. The Lakers lead the Clippers in the West by 5.5 games, and Brian Windhorst is here ready to go. Windy, what was the biggest takeaway that you had from the schedule being released? What was the most important thing fans should be aware of?
Well, look, that first opening game, Clippers-Lakers, to me, this whole restart is about Clippers-Lakers. Clippers-Lakers is the big thing, and everybody's going to be fresh, and we'll have to see. Clippers-Lakers is the dominant storyline in my mind of the entire Western Conference, and I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Obviously, and we are all hoping that we get to that and that we are talking about basketball at sometime in July and August and September. They announced on Friday they had 16 players test positive last week. No mention of coaches. There's not an assurance that all of those are going to Orlando. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Greeny, this is going to be a topic that is going to come to the forefront in the next few days, I believe. And talking to people over the weekend, they obviously didn't announce the testing numbers for coaches. We saw 5% of the players test positive. You can do your own math there. But when I checked with the league on this, when it came to coaches being cleared by the doctors, they just said there is an ongoing medical review process. There is a panel of doctors that has to give a thumbs up to every player, coach, and staff member before they can go. And there is a real concern that some of these coaches are not going to be cleared. There are 3 coaches we know, head coaches, that are over the age that would worry doctors: Alvin Gentry, Mike D'Antoni, and Greg Popovich. But there may be other coaches who have other underlying conditions that people don't know about publicly that could be an issue. And the agent for Alvin Gentry and Mike D'Antoni has basically threatened legal action if his guys aren't permitted to coach. So over the next few days, we're going to find out, because by July 1st, this weekend coming up, that is the deadline to send forth who your 35 people going to Orlando are, and we'll see how many of those 22 head coaches are cleared to go.
Well, it's really complicated stuff. There's all of this, and then, of course, there are other issues that people are concerned with. The president of the union is Chris Paul. He told the Undefeated that players may be able to have messages instead of names on the backs of their jerseys. How did that come about?
Yeah, this is an uplifting story, Greeny, because this is one of the things that the players said when they talked to Adam Silver about wanting to use the platform in Orlando. They don't need necessarily to go on to media. They have social media. What else could the league offer them? And this is one of those things. This is something that's been done in European soccer. The WNBA has talked about doing this. The value of being on an NBA jersey, I mean, teams sell jersey patches in 2x2 inches for tens of millions of dollars a year. The ability to get that message out to millions of fans watching and to have the players be able to individually tailor it, very valuable. There's still a bunch of details to work out here, and Nike, who makes the jerseys, is involved. But this is a creative, smart, and useful way for the players to be able to use this platform. And most people who have heard about it are really applauding it.
Yeah, Kendrick Perkins earlier this morning said that in all the years he's been around the NBA, this is the most impressed he's been with the commissioner, in this case Adam Silver, and the way he has worked with the players to find things that will make them feel good going into a circumstance that everyone acknowledges is unprecedentedly complicated.
For sure.
And then let's get on the court, if we can, here a little bit here, because we mentioned the Lakers and the Clippers. They will get things started. And then we look over in the West, and there is that battle. I think the primary reason they invited all these extra teams is because there is still some business to be worked out at the bottom of the West bracket and some very interesting players to be seen there. What are we expecting at the bottom of the West bracket?
Yeah, so a lot of people are focused on the fact that the New Orleans Pelicans got the easiest draw on this redo, and they feel like it's an attempt to kick the ball into the fairway, to use a parlance that you would enjoy, Greeny, for Zion Williamson. And, to be honest with you, maybe it is, but I would say that the Pelicans did have the easiest schedule remaining when the league halted, and the Grizzlies, the team they're trying to catch, had one of the hardest schedules. And in fact, the Grizzlies' schedule in the restart is actually slightly improved. And the other thing about strength of schedule, Greeny, I'm going to have to toss it out, because I don't know how many of the star players on the teams at the top are going to play every game. Like, there's a back-to-back in here. Kawhi Leonard is not playing in a back-to-back. The Bucks have a huge lead in the East, and the Lakers a huge lead in the West. I don't know how many games LeBron James and Giannis Antetokounmpo might skip in this situation. So even projecting like, oh, New Orleans is going to move up because these are going to be wins and these are going to be losses, they're going to have to do it on the court. And that's what we're all looking forward to. And I'm looking forward to when we can stop talking about bubble mechanics and we can start talking about basketball, and that gets me excited.
Amen to that. All of us are, obviously, as fans of the game, but it is important to remember for fans who hadn't really thought about this. The primary reason that teams compete during the regular season is to get home court advantage. There is no longer home court advantage. The seeding matters because it does determine matchups, but those things aren't always what they would appear to be. Home court advantage is something every team wants, and now that you don't have that to concern yourself with, it changes the dynamics of the remainder of the regular season, right?
Yeah, and there's obviously seeding. Teams are going to line up. In the Eastern Conference, Boston has had a real problem with Philadelphia this season, and Boston may be very confident, but that's a bad matchup for them. They may want to maneuver to try to avoid that matchup. But in the West, the difference between the 4 seed and the 7 seed is 1 game in the win column. We could see maneuvering out there that could affect not who plays at home, but who plays who and could advance. So there's a lot going on to watch in these seeding games coming up.